Hey everybody, a little rough start there. It's been a minute. You could say a little bit of rusty. Had to take kind of a mental break there, but this is RJ with 60 Grit. See, already screwing. But yeah, it has been a while. I was just talking about having a little anxiety because it's been so long, but with the holidays and everything, it just kind of seemed like time for a break. I'm here with Kevin, back together again in the saddle again. What's the song?
Yeah, all the songs. Yeah,
Probably.
we are back.
Yeah.
It's good to be back.
It does feel good. There's a lot going on right now. We were going to talk a little bit. What were we going to talk about? We were going to talk about the stuff going on down in Standing Rock, or with the Standing Rock, and then also that Time article that just came out today that you would think I would fall in love with.
You can call it an article. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I don't know what else to call it though, so I'm going to stick with article for right now. But
an 8th grade social studies paper.
But by like I don't even know what you would call it. Like what kind of mental perspective would you call the person that wrote this essay?
Arrested development to steal from that show.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Someone who's locked in a high school mentality still.
Yeah, like it's definitely bias isn't the right word, just because bias we throw around so loosely now and it's so expected. There's a cognitive dissonance to it. I love that word. I probably use it way too much on this podcast.
You can never use it too much.
Yeah, I'll probably just have to pull a snippet of me saying cognitive dissonance and play that on repeat through the intro.
It's probably just going to be a rebranding. Someday I'm going to tune into Thursdays on FX, Cognitive Dissonance with RJ.
Buy my male vitality formula now. Yeah, that's actually exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, that article, because I told you yesterday, like what I wanted to talk about, and then I saw that article come out today, and I was like, we got to drop some stuff, because I sent you that little diatribe or whatever, but just because that's how, like, it was just so crazy to me that it was published in Time, because same thing you were saying to me when you read it, like you feel like it's an amateur writing it. Because we both had people submit some stuff to us.
Yeah.
And like just growing up, like reviewing like your friend's work, and you can tell when they're like writing from like a superior point of view, but like with no real reason to like feel superior about it. Almost. It's like when you like build a straw man argument and then feel superior because of the position you would take in that argument. That 1% of the time, I guess. I don't know. But the headline is 65 million Americans should threaten not to pay taxes, which to me it should say 300 million Americans should threaten not to pay taxes. But at first I saw that and I was like, Time magazine? What? Okay. I can dig it. Like, I should be really excited about this. So it was good clickbait. Did you got to read it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forced my way through it. The idea essentially being that from Mark Weston that a hypothetical pledge should be signed that if more Republican candidates win with a minority vote, and popular vote at least, that the Democrats should stop paying their taxes. Well, long story short, send their tax money to a private bank overseas and have them hold it until democracy is restored. His words. Yeah.
An escrow account.
In an escrow account, yes. Worded to say, basically, to be paid to the IRS when democracy is returned or something like that. We'll get into that later. Don't even get me started on that part.
We'll read that one, but there's an immaturity to the article. That's the word that I couldn't find.
That's kind of what I was going with, like with the development. Like
this
is just there's that mentality of I felt like this was a term paper.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it sounded like a why government is great kind of essay. Just
it's like written by that kid that was a Republican because his dad was a Republican and only knew like the talking points his dad heard on Rush Limbaugh, so they were like third-hand talking points, and like an entire essay written about it.
Yeah.
With obvious like loopholes. But yeah, you guys, if you want to know what we're talking about, we're going to read portions of it. It's a pretty short article. We'll put the link on the YouTube page and in the SoundCloud. So definitely check the notes in those for the link to the Time article. I also tweeted about it from @6DegreeRadio today, so check that out. But I guess we should probably just start with the header there, the first line, the first paragraph. I'm not a journalist. I don't know what you call the first.
Neither
paragraph.
is Mark Weston.
We didn't.
Oh, shots fired. Neither is Kevin Massing. So whatever. It takes one to know one. But
and maybe that's why we're so critical, because we're both like, he did this and he sucks as bad as me.
Yeah, like,
Fuck.
man, damn time. Like, I could have done this for you. No, I wouldn't have. No, I couldn't have gotten there. But yeah, so approximately 65 million Democrats who voted for Hillary should pledge that in the future, if a Republican wins the presidency with fewer votes than a Democrat for the third time in our era, which is an undefined term. Sorry, back to the quote. We won't pay taxes to the federal government. No taxation without representation. God, if I had a nickel for every time someone yelled that without knowing what it meant or having really no basis behind it.
That's the first thing I wanted to point out about this, though, is that was over a 3% tax. We are at near 50% tax at least when you factor in all the taxes you pay and then import taxes on those goods and everything else built into those costs on every day. Like half of our income ends up being paid in some form to a tax at this point. It's ridiculous.
So it makes me think that this guy will lead a charge if Trump should win his re-election with somehow, like, let's say 47% of the vote, that he'll lead a charge to throw Donald Trump into the Boston Harbor, or the next, maybe Mike Pence too, probably. Definitely Pence. If not, I feel like that's what Pence was brought in for, to take those bullets. So he'd probably be taking a bath. But yeah, it's just...
Is that the new Republican thing? You have to bring a guy in there to take your bullets? Because I feel like Cheney brought a guy in for that too.
Well, I mean, I feel like everybody's doing. It's just the move.
Cheney
Sorry,
one of his friends.
Yeah. Well, I just saw the parallel of what we'll be talking about later with Standing Rock, about the, I love that the vets came in, but the fact that the idea that the protesters had people come in to kind of take the hits for them.
Yeah.
It's like, that's today's revolutionary. So this is today's journalist, just kind of like writing up a not fully formulated idea and publishing it on an international magazine. Yeah.
I'm looking. I hate when people get on their phones when we're recording, but I was looking to see what I was saying, because basically the American liberal is the most softcore revolutionary on the planet just because of this plan. But yeah, it cracks me up, the links they won't go to, but how hard they hold these viewpoints, that they're not only superior but entitled, and they're still so statist. Well, we should read it.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah,
which is
so
basically what we're reading.
Well, you said that our generation or whatever, third time in an era. What was the wording?
The quote,
third time in our era. He later says it's 16 years.
Okay, which is all right. That's fair. I mean, I guess we'll dig into it later. He's going to break it down. Great soundbite from the president-elect there. I wonder if this is the guy he was talking about when he made those remarks.
I don't remember.
Quite possibly.
Oh man, no, I'm gonna get thrown into the ringer. Well, good thing nobody gives a shit what I have to say.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I mean, we have at least a few live viewers right now, so a few people give a shit.
And I did have an unmarked white van follow me for about 2 miles. Turns out he just needed gas at the same gas station I was going to. But
that's hilarious.
I was worried he might be a listener. So twice in the past 16 years. A Republican candidate who finished second in the popular vote has won the presidency. This year, Donald Trump won with 40%. 46%. Now I did it. 40%. There's a soundbite for you. While Hillary received 48%.
So 2%.
Yeah.
That's where this guy draws the line.
When Mexico sends its people,
2% of the population said elsewise. So
they're not sending their best.
We're not being represented. But failing to mention that 46% of the voting population wouldn't be represented
crime,
if Hillary would have won.
I will build a great,
So maybe
great
it's the
wall.
timing of, because that's kind of how I feel about it too. Maybe it's the timing of this call to action, but I have the feeling you
On our
probably
southern
won't get
border,
this
and I will
reference, but
have
any
Mexico
basketball
pay
fans
for that.
listening, I feel like this is like if you lost a game when Michigan lost a national championship because Chris Webber called a timeout that they didn't have. It's like they lost because of the rules of the game. So it would have been like Michigan contesting, like, well, it's not fair that we didn't have 7 timeouts. We should have had that extra. If we'd had that extra timeout, we would have won. So that's not fair. We have to change the rules for next time.
Yeah,
it's one of those things.
If they don't, we're withholding our touchdowns.
Yeah, and if they don't, we're not going to play anymore. And so that's where I don't like the argument. If you want to, I'm all about trying to make change. I would definitely be one that says the system we have needs some kind of correction one way or the other. But I hate when it's only brought up because you lost. I would have loved to have heard this a few years ago or something, leading into the election. But now, after you didn't get the result that you wanted, now it's time to change the rules, and I don't like that.
There was nobody that worried about the Electoral College prior, because nobody thought he would win the swing states. It is funny that now is when they're like, we need to take a new look at the system. And I guess Bush v. Gore, they probably said similar things. But nobody was talking about withholding their tax dollars. Right. And that was, that was an even closer election, if I'm not mistaken, than this one.
Well, in sort of a parallel there, like where, and I could be wrong, but what if a Time article similar to this had been written when things came out about Bernie? Like when Bernie lost the election, lost the primary, when clearly it felt like he had the majority, that's what the people wanted. Like, where was this clamor to change that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's really why the Democrats lost. Like, they got in the candidate that was less likely to win. And that's, so it's one of those things, again, it's like they're blaming somebody else, but it's really like you have to look inside and be like, well, one way or the other, we screwed it up. Like, let's not change the rules if you want, but like quit blaming things on everybody else and accept your mistakes.
Exactly. I can't remember who it was I was listening to that was saying this, but I feel like I'm probably going to echo them, so I at least want to call out that I might have heard this elsewhere. But essentially, the Democratic vote or the liberal vote seems to not have like any interest in self-reflection. They don't want to look at, well, how did we lose this election? How did we lose all of these swing states? How come we're only represented in these like 3 major hubs? I was going to wait, but I kind of pulled it up there on the screen anyway. We might as well pull it back up. They only won like 15 states or 20 states maybe altogether. I mean, more states are represented by Trump than by Clinton as far as who they wanted their leader to be, which to me echoes the entire ridiculous idea that we have a single person in charge of all of these territories. It's absolutely absurd. Like, why don't you take this to its logical conclusion that there's no possible way that anybody can feel represented by one person, let alone 300 million people? It's that, like, you decided to stop going. You were thinking about something, you decided this is the point where I'm going to stop because I don't want to think the entire system might be a bad idea. That's too far. Instead, I want to make this system that's obviously failing and failed everybody. I want to continue to pay into it. I just only want to do that if my guy wins or if the election is won in my way. And I would almost contend that if Hillary had won the Electoral College, but Trump had won the popular vote, they'd call us ridiculous for saying the same thing. I'm a fan of the Electoral College if you're going to do a democracy, personally. And I know a lot of liberals that also are. But a lot of the liberals that are also a fan of the Electoral College are blaming gerrymandering, redistricting for the results. But they're still saying at the end of the day you need the Electoral College. And again, to me, it's for that fucking map that I pulled up. That's the entire reason you need the Electoral College. The fact that the majority of Americans happen to live in basically each coast and the entire Midwest should be subjected to their will, or nearly the entire Midwest should be subjected to their will, just because they have like obligations to the same supreme leader. It's absurd to me. Why can't each coast have their own president and the middle have their own president, and you pay taxes to that president? Or you just have your governor. Or everybody's free. I like that one best. But that's the jump you would continue to make, to me, if you had any reflection on your own like logic. But to me, you're just repeating the same rhetoric and trying to like form a new idea from an old idea and maintain your own rhetoric behind it. And that's what he's trying to do in this article. I think that's why it comes across so poorly written, is because it's a failed premise almost. It's just, you can't, he couldn't take it to its logical conclusion. He was not able to. So he had to build an article out of basically something that can be shot down almost as really quickly. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. This feels like the kid who's like, I can't play quarterback, so I'm going to take my ball and go home until you let me play quarterback. But yeah, I agree with you. Like,
I had more yards. I don't care if they had more points.
Yeah. the refs cost us the game.
I've
it's
just
like
received-
the Ohio State, Michigan fans listening right now in their whole big argument. You know,
I saw some shots of that play. I know the play you're talking about. I don't think it was a first down.
A call
yeah, you turn the ball over
from
3 times, you
Secretary
gain 5 yards in the fourth quarter, and it's the ref's fault. That's you say it all comes down to that's that whole it's everybody else's fault mentality. You play poorly for 12 straight minutes, and then so that makes it come down to one play, and then you put and then it's out of your hands, and then now it's not your fault anymore, but really it was your fault. A little sidebar there. But
She congratulated.
so I guess getting back, I guess we should dig back into this a little bit and formulate more of the article just to kind of back your point that it doesn't go to its logical conclusion, because right now those listening, we've only given them about half of what he has suggested they do. So
Right on.
the next part.
Do you want me to pick it up?
Do you want to just start with like how the pledge would work, or do you want
I
to more
kind of
with
wanted to
his...
get into the pettiness of it.
Okay, yeah.
I know we're ending up reading basically the entire article, but I just wanted to talk about it, and this is great context for the pettiness of it, just going straight to the next section there. So most Republicans are quite content with this system. Appeals to fairness have not persuaded them of the need to amend the Constitution to establish direct presidential elections, preferably with runoff if no one wins 50% of the vote. Nor does the real chance that a Democrat could win the presidency with fewer votes than a Republican alarm them. Even the taunt, "Are you afraid of a direct election? Can't you win a straight-up vote?" doesn't faze them. Democrats must, therefore, pester Republicans where it hurts, the pocketbook. Yeah, Republicans are the greedy ones that are always going for tax dollars, not the Democrats.
Yeah.
That's what the Republicans are known for.
Yeah.
And you can't taunt these Republicans?
Those small government Republicans really coming after our dollar.
How absurd are these Republicans that you can't insult them into changing their minds about a system?
Yeah, and that's what I'm glad you decided to read that paragraph, because I forgot. I made a note in my notes when the fairness that one really chapped my ass, so to speak, because I hate. This guy should listen to some JFK speeches. Don't ask for easier lives. Ask to be stronger men. I know that it's not fair. We didn't win because it's not fair. It sounds like it again contributes to us not being able to take this seriously, because it sounds like a tantrum.
Yeah, it really does.
You don't want things to be fair. Well, at the end of the day, you're playing ball. Like, you're playing the system that it is. So I know this is even. It would be one thing if he had suggested actual action towards change. This is all hypothetical based on if 20 years from now this happens to us again, then we should do this hypothetical thing. And it's like all you're doing is just mustering up a ridiculous argument over something. Yeah, it's just clickbait. It's unfortunately what passes as journalism for Time magazine in 2016. That's the part that hurts me the most.
How is it fair to Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Texas, Wyoming, Montana to have to be subjected to California and New York's rules?
Well, I mean,
because more people happen to live in California. And if you look at the map, more people tend to live in like 2 portions of California and New York, or 3 portions of it. It's not even like the whole state. A lot of the states themselves, it wouldn't have been fair to. That's the reason the Electoral College exists, because if you look at this map, more of the United States, more of these territories of people are represented by this person, in my opinion, like it or not. I mean, I don't like either of them. Neither one of them represent me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm all for not paying your taxes. I'm probably going to get audited a lot. But yeah, I'm all for the headline for sure. But when you look at this map, fairness, are you shitting me? How is it fair to me that if I don't vote, that now I'm going to have to pick up your tax burden? Because you decide I don't like this game that I played, its rules.
Yeah. That's a good argument too. It's
because they act like people that don't comply isn't built into the tax rate. They have to comply. That's like you putting like theft into your cost of your goods. I mean, do they honestly think that the people that don't pay taxes isn't getting picked up by the taxpayer still? Or the fine payer, or however they decide to get the money?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to
person
come
in
from
jail?
somewhere. Yeah.
It's just all so absurd to me.
More traffic stop fines, might raise the rate of that. Who knows? But it has to come from somewhere.
I'm working on it.
So where were we
I'm working on that.
when
Give
we
me 1
last
sec.
left our hero?
Yeah, I wish I would have looked up more of this guy's work to see if he's always such a crummy author and or if this was just thrown at his feet and he had to do it.
Well, and I was wondering, like, I thought to myself as I read this, even if this is satire, I'm not certain that I like it. I don't even think, like, because even if he were being satirical, he should have offered just a ridiculous, like, not even a, like, almost a more ridiculous plan, or at least a call to action for right now. Again, this feels like even a half-ass attempt at satire.
It really, just the line, Democrats must therefore pester Republicans where it hurts the pocketbook in reference to not paying federal taxes. The party that supposedly wants to shrink the federal government the most and lower the tax rate and is constantly saying, you have to, like, it's going to hurt, but you got to do it. They really think that they're going to be the ones that is like, oh, well, we can't have all these programs because people aren't paying their taxes. Oh, no, let's change how we do things.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be satire. Unless you have no, like, understanding of what the parties claim to stand for.
I'm hoping this is a satire. Then it's just kind of like, well, his creative writing professor could have helped him out a little bit, but
yeah, it was Democrats like Mark Cuban talking about how great paying taxes is. It's Republicans like Trump saying it's smart not to pay your taxes.
right?
Are you fucking shitting me? Right? I don't. But he has 3 reasons why it's okay to do his plan. For those of you that might be worried if it's legal, it is actually legal because, according to the article, if no overt act of conspiracy is involved and the pledge itself is hypothetical, no one knows when or if it would be carried out. So because you're not actually saying, yeah, we're going to do this, but only, well, if this set of circumstances happens, we might do it, you can't be prosecuted. So it's okay to sign this pledge, but because it's legal.
Yeah, because we're not actually doing anything.
So we still want to play by the game. We like it to most extents. We understand how ridiculous the rules are that we can't sign this pledge if we actually are saying we're not going to pay our taxes, because then they'll come to our door with guns. Like, take it to its logical conclusion. It's ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous? Oh, because if you don't do this, they're going to come and force you to pay money to them, even though you don't like them? Oh, as long as the majority of people are okay with it, that's what matters. His second point or second reason was a national movement not to pay federal taxes in the future would put Republicans on notice. They do not have the right to impose a hard right second-place presidency on a moderate nation every dozen or so years. Do they not understand what hard right is? It's not... This guy was a Democrat before. Democrats or liberals are for closed borders at the end of the day. I'm sorry, you have to be for all of the entitlements. There's no way around it. He's for a defensive military, supposedly. That's Democrat to me. Gay marriage,
Yeah.
Democrat.
There's a reason he had to bring Mike Pence in as his VP, and that was to attract more of the hard right people because he wasn't hard enough.
Yeah. I fail to see, like, he wants to build infrastructure. That is the number one Democrat talking line. That was the New Deal. Like, that was half the money that supposedly got us out of, or if you believe the people I believe, extended the Great Depression. At the end of the day, was building infrastructure, focusing on us, not focusing on overseas. It's all Democrat. It's everything a Democrat is. A statist at the end of the day, but it's not a Romney to me. It's not a McCain or a Palin, or it's none of those guys to me. This guy's he's a fucking Democrat. He's just a Democrat that's kind of funny. I don't know what you want from me. He is anything worse about him than Kennedy at the end of the day, as far as like any antic he could have been involved in. Like, he said he grabs women by the pussy, but think of all the pussy JFK got.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I don't know that I ever think of a ladies' man as being a gentleman. No. You know, at the end of the day, most of them are the trashiest dudes you know, but in the funny way, like the Trump way to me. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I think 50 years ago, most people wouldn't have had a problem with Trump in the way that they have a problem with him now. He would have been even if he were the exact same person, it would have just seen more of like, oh, well, you know, back then it would have been, well, Trump's a man's man.
Yeah.
You know, like just because that's what was the perception. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Could you imagine how, like, if 2016 had been Kennedy Nixon with today's standards, that you had a guy like Nixon running against Kennedy? I feel like, yeah, it would have been just nothing but personal stuff, and because I mean, Nixon, there would have been ton of conspiracy things to be throwing around. Yeah. Like CNN would have had a field day with the debates. It would have been a great time. This is
back when they were spying on each other. This is one of the reasons I don't buy into the puppet masters. It's just because the parties were fucking spying on each other to get elected, and then they got busted for it in a huge scandal, and got fucking impeached, or resigned, or anyhow. You get the point.
Yeah.
So that's why one of the reasons why I don't know how he got so off the rails. But just shit like that to me is like, unless he crossed the puppet master and that was his. But they had recordings.
Really good television.
Yeah, no, that too.
That's one of the parallels I see to CNN now. Is like Donald Trump used to run the World Wrestling Federation, was now World Wrestling Entertainment, and I noticed, I felt like a lot of the campaign storylines reminded me of '80s, WrestleMania storylines.
That's what reviews well on TV. And what
I know.
Reviews well on TV is what people want. I think that's why I think he knew, talking the way he talked. It got him a fucking Emmy for his show, did it not?
Look how popular Stone Cold Steve Austin was.
Yeah.
That dude, people who don't even watch that sport, I used air quotes over here, guys, have T-shirts that say Austin 316 and, smash Budweisers together and drink them. They don't even really know why they do it. Just a lot of people do it. And, people say, give me a hell yeah. I mean, maybe not so much now in 2016, but this wasn't that long ago where this guy built an empire off of being basically just kind of trashy. But, hey, he spoke his mind and he was honest. So, yeah, it definitely has an appeal. It clearly has mass appeal because people are subservient all day, every day. God tells them they're bad. Their government rules their lives. The boss tells them what to do all day at work, and they probably have to answer to someone at home. So they're like, oh, yeah, this guy gets to speak his mind. I like him.
Yeah.
Because I don't express myself.
Yeah, You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. I didn't expect to talk about kind of the almost genius behind Trump a little bit there, but the fact that he spoke the way he did, I feel like he was like, you know what, I get the reviews. I'm going to keep my message. And I think that's one of the reasons he went through so many campaign managers, is because they were trying to change the way he was doing things. And he's like, no, this is what appealed to people. This got people to watch me. It got them to choose to watch me. Now they want to watch me. I'm going to keep doing it. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that it was a little genius, and it wasn't until this last lady who's gotten a lot of credit that like his campaign really took off. But even though she's getting all the credit, I still think that was more just the FBI's reinvestigation of Hillary was just like, this is the last straw for those swing voters.
Yeah, it was great television too.
Yeah, that's true. I know you're a conspiracy theorist that doesn't exist because you're not a conspiracy theorist.
Yep.
But I know that caused you to point out that it might all be
the proper term now is fake news enthusiast.
Dude, they labeled like Breitbart and Free Thought Project, Ron Paul's website. They labeled a lot of shit fake news.
Yeah, it's so funny to see all these places that put out fake news. Like I would slap the label on this. You can't call. I mean, it's a magazine, so it doesn't have to be news.
I thought you were talking about our show, and I was like, yeah.
Well, also,
but
yes.
for different reasons.
Yeah, also yes, yeah, for sure.
But
the Time magazine article, yeah, that if it were at least he's not claiming it to be news. It's hypothetical, but so he's explained why the national movement would be good and why it would say that it would put the hard right in line.
Yeah. And to point out his own ignorance and his own contradicting philosophy, he put the sentence, if Republicans won't help amend the Constitution so that America can resume being a democracy, then Democrats, lacking the representation that supporters of a future popular vote winner ought to have in the executive branch, should not submit to paying taxes to the federal government. The part of that sentence that really contradicts to me is if Republicans won't help amend the Constitution so that Americans can resume being a democracy.
Yeah, also,
So
I mean...
we need to amend the Constitution to get it back to how it was not... Because to resume would be to pick up where you left off.
Yeah, so we can go back to that democracy that we've always had from day one.
So do you mean the federal...
The Articles of
Yeah,
Confederation?
is that what you want to read? I'm down. I'm
yeah.
so down, sir, but I don't think you realize what you're saying you are down for. I like what you're thinking. This is one of those people that I try to appeal to, though, because they're almost there. They say shit like that, and you're like, I know you just haven't thought this all the way through, and if you do, you might see all the way through to the other side of it. But right now, you're still trying to apply these pretty rational thoughts to a completely irrational system and trying to, hold it together with them. And that's, to me, the immaturity of it, the not completely thought outness of it, the idea that you would amend something to resume something.
Well, right. And just, to me, the concept breaker was to the idea of resume being a democracy. You know, we talked about it,
Yeah.
we haven't been that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you wouldn't amend it.
You shouldn't
to, resume it because we've never been that. It wouldn't be resuming it.
And so we've got, someone who's historically illiterate passing this opinion out.
Yeah.
Like hotcakes across an international magazine.
The editor had to have seen this and been like, whoa, bro.
And thought a lot of people are going to click on that. And a lot of people are going to either agree with it because it pitches to what they believe in because they're upset. And protesting is super trendy right now.
Which is cool.
Super trendy right now.
And we're going to talk about that with the I think it's cool. I like that people are willing to get out there. I even like that people are out there protesting Trump, to be honest. I like it. I like all of it.
Let them protest all they want so long as they pay their taxes.
Well, what was his third point?
If the Republican wins without the popular vote again, we should still pay what we owe in federal taxes, just not to the IRS. Instead, people would compute their federal taxes, file a Form 1040, and write a check to a national escrow account, preferably in a well-established Canadian or British bank that is beyond the reach of the U.S. Justice Department. Because whoever opens this account probably will be in violation of the U.S. law. Also, run-ons, use a period, dude. I'm sorry. My inner editor is just like, dude, you 4 or 5 lines is too long for one sentence. Okay, anyway. In the check's memo line, people should write, funds to be transferred to the IRS as soon as America resumes being a democracy. Holy dumbass Batman.
So back to the resumes being a democracy as if it ever was. But you want to store it in a reputable company because they're likely going to be breaking the law. But don't worry. I'm just going to drop the mic.
Boom.
But yeah, it's ridiculous to me. It's all...
Send it to a well-established Canadian or British bank. I thought that one made me chuckle.
Don't they hate storing money and don't they want to close all the loopholes that lets you do shit like this? Isn't this the same party that's like too many companies are able to store their money offshore, so they want to close all these corporate loopholes that lets them do stuff like this? But then they're like, oh, we need this loophole right now. This is really this is the only way we can protest is by withholding our money.
Also, I also just kind of feel that if you send all that money to one of the 2 biggest allies of the American people, that should push come to shove, the government's going to be able to call that favor in?
Yeah, it's almost like, again,
Like, are they really going to go to
why
war
would you
with
point out,
America
like,
over you?
Switzerland or the Cayman Islands, or a country that historically is looked out for the consumer rather than the national interest.
You really want that out of American reach? You send it to like Russia, like you put it somewhere where they're really going to say, "Nah, man, you can't
Putin,
have it.
I need you to sit on this.
Don't send it. Hey, send it over to the British bank." Yeah, okay. Yeah, they'll sure.
Yeah, they really respect democracy.
Might as well send it to an Israeli bank and be like, "Yeah, keep this away from the Americans, please."
Yeah, please send it to a country that really respects democracy, like Great Britain. Because no taxation without representation, as Britain's always said. It's just like, maybe I don't know. It's just so ridiculous to me. And then again, he just pulls out the
they would have to do.
The beauty of the entire pledge that he wants people to sign is that it almost, and he wouldn't even set up this pledge. He's saying somebody should set it up. But the beauty is that it almost certainly won't have to be carried out. But so, yeah, the great part about this pledge is you probably won't have to act on it. That's what's wonderful. You should sign this pledge. So you're going into this, and anybody who's reading this article is like, half the people on that don't even mean it.
Yeah,
they literally read in the article.
He would be a great guy to have over for a poker game, because I feel like he'd push half his stack in and say, "Well, I'm only bluffing here, but I'm pot committed, so I kind of have to bluff."
Yeah.
It's like, why'd you take the time to write this article if you're saying like, "Yeah, we won't have to use it, won't put it into effect. Everyone knows we're bluffing." How would it make no one's going to react?
Yeah.
If they know, the guy behind this said, everyone's signing this under the assumption that they wouldn't have to actually do anything. So doesn't that take away any theoretical power that you have to do it? It doesn't make any sense to me. Also, I love the fact we can't skim over the fact that he suggested that someone at change.org or there was two different websites he pitched that said one of you guys should do this petition.
Yeah.
Like I'm calling to arms that you should do it, but I'm not actually gonna do it.
I cannot remember the exact website, but while
change.org was one of them. That's
while I'm looking for that, he goes on to say that the mere threat could be enough to propel a constitutional amendment, and that if a bunch of people sign it, Republicans will know that a third modern Republican runner-up presidency is impossible, that Democrats won't be cooperative again. As if, like, Republicans have ever been like, "Whoa, bro, we see what's going on there. We're not gonna wait this one out. Yeah, we're gonna take action now." As if they wouldn't wait for it to happen and then be like, "Well, act now." Like,
yeah.
Okay, so you're going to put all your shit in escrow, and then the president's going to be elected, and this guy that you don't want to be your president is going to target everybody that has this stuff in escrow for tax evasion. That's what's going to happen, because now you're trying to fight a guy with money stored overseas, and he knows who you are because you signed this pledge. And
all it takes is one big-time fall guy to
the
scare
IRS
everyone else
sees
back
this
in
pledge,
line. Yeah.
types your name into the computer, says, "Oh, they didn't file this year. What's going on? Oh, they have this 1040 escrow account. Well, that's not legal. Garnishing wages."
Yep. Thanks for playing.
I'm sure this guy has written several articles on gun control and its importance, so he definitely will have a way to defend himself from them just coming and taking the money.
They should be we should be more progressive, like Great Britain.
Yeah. It's so absurd to me. Did I ever find the other website?
No, but that's a change.org and it just disappeared. Moveon.org.
Okay.
Or both should circulate a petition. Not me. I'm not going to write it. I don't know what to say. This is all hypothetical. So this again just takes away from the legitimacy of it. This is just like, this is my problem with, I don't disagree with you when you say, you support people protesting. I support people but you should want to hold yourself a little more accountable. And this just sounds like the dude in the back row yelling forward while the dudes up front are getting their asses whooped. Hey, you guys, I'm mad. You guys do something about it. Here's what I think we should do. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Hey, I have all this time to write this article, but I really couldn't make it to the website today. So
Yeah. Also, I have all these resources. I work for Time Magazine, but you guys should do it because
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It really, there's no other way to describe it. I just want to make sure we're still live here because I switched something. And sorry, listeners, making some sausage right now.
I'll
but
get some elevator music playing for you.
But yeah, so speaking of small government and government overreach and the ridiculousness of the federal government we want to talk a little bit about the Dakota pipeline. And basically the protesters it appears the protesters may have won for the short term.
Yeah, man, the snowstorm won.
Yeah. But so essentially, just a little background here, the roughest of background. They're trying to build a pipeline through. They used eminent domain for the pipeline, and that's when I decided I was against it. So it was really, it was really just that easy for me. I didn't care. Ceremonial burial ground does not fucking matter to me. As basically as close to an atheist as you can get. I call myself an agnostic, but at the end of the day, you can put me up in a cardboard box and light it on fire and scatter me into the sewage plant, and I don't care. I won't feel disrespected. I don't care what happens to me when I die. It doesn't matter to me. And it seems like most of the progressives out there that want to respect the Indians' rights are all, this is a ceremonial burial ground, because they have to ignore how much they love eminent domain. But most of these liberals would describe or self-describe as atheists. Why would you care about a ceremonial burial ground? You're an atheist. Why is this culture here, it's okay for them to live with these ideals, but if I'm a white Christian, you can confront me about the ridiculousness of my religion? It's just, it's so strange to me that that's the reason they picked for it. And I think that's the reason that they kind of ignored the fact that I guess it didn't even go through ceremonial burial grounds. And they kept pushing that narrative, I think, is so they could get the liberals behind it. Which is, again, strange to me that that's the one that works, because you would think they'd be like, so what? We love eminent domain, and we don't think anything happens when you die, so it's all stupid.
Yeah. Points deflected. And that's, there's someone else who loves eminent domain, and
Donald Trump.
And he's about to be president here in a few months. And that's what all I think is going on here is a stall move. They're saying that they're going to reroute it. I'll believe that when I see them digging in a different direction. And maybe not even then.
Because all that happened was the Corps of Engineers didn't sign the last permits they needed, right? I think that's
and they're going to come up with new plans is
but
the current plan.
Well, I read they're not even like a guarantee they're going to come up with new plans. They're going to explore.
Yeah.
What?
We're looking into it.
They already explored once because they were going to go through a town, and the town was like, fuck no. So then they explored and found this area, which, why would you pick a lake? It seems so absurd to me that you would pick a lake to put the pipeline through. I would do everything I could to go around that if I was the people building it. I would have explored this already. You don't want that liability. I wouldn't want that liability. Potentially ruining a bunch of people's groundwater, but Army Corps of Engineers, eminent domain, they're already tied in with the government. They don't have to worry about a real lawsuit. That's what protected BP from getting hit with actual lawsuits with their oil spill. Was there was a cap put on the cost that they could have to pay. So I feel like they don't care for the same big government protections that have gotten them this far. So I think you're kind of right with it just putting it on pause, to be completely honest. I think they're going to let this die off. A lot of people were getting heated about it. All of these veterans showing up kind of echoes what I was saying about a revolution being possible on past episodes, just because you have so many current people enlisted in the military and past people from the military that hold individual liberty and freedom and property rights so close that they're willing to stand on the other side of that. That's how the Civil War happened. They hold that above the federal government or big business, and this was the worst of both federal government and big business to me, was this pipeline. So I liked seeing. I still don't necessarily buy this 2,000 veterans number that's been thrown out there. I saw that like 500 or so showed up the first day, which is huge to me. 500 people willing to deal with that shit weather and getting sprayed with hoses and stuff like that. That's huge to me. I would think the number would be higher if it was people shooting at each other, to be completely honest. I would rather be out there with a gun and camouflage shooting back at them than to just standing there taking a water cannon, to be completely honest. Fuck that shit. And I said a while back, just start shooting back. Like, and people were like, what, you're going to like introduce violence to the situation? They're already shooting rubber bullets. They're shooting guns at people. Like, okay, throw fucking smoke grenades back at them then. Go buy your own rubber bullets. Match force. I don't give a fuck. But if you're shooting at me with a gun for where I'm standing, fuck you. You already broke the peace, man. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, I should have every right to protect my body. And if you're pointing a fucking gun at me, who are you to say I belong in it? And if I have 500 of my closest friends beside me, are you going to come and arrest me for shooting the guy that's shooting at me? It's just so absurd to me. And I think this little pause here might be to break the tension from escalating to that next point.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, they're going to have to forcefully remove. If 2,000 veterans showed up, they would have to forcefully remove 2,000 veterans. I don't know that they would go peacefully. I think you would see a Bundy kind of element maybe sticking around there. Like, this is our chance to stay. Because this is still them standing up against the federal government.
Yeah.
I think you had a lot more libertarian-minded people in that crowd than hippie-minded people in that crowd. But there's a lot of them out there that still want to put peace first and wait to be shot first with real bullets. For some reason, you can distinguish between being knocked the fuck out, potentially paralyzed for life by a rubber bullet, but when it actually goes through your skin and just kills you, that's when...
That's the rally
That's
point,
too far. That's when you can maybe shoot back or should probably just quit.
And I think you're right in the essence of this could be. Well, I think of it this way: if they're releasing the tension, relieving the tension, only to say in January when there's a ton of snow, because there are people that are claiming they're going to wait around for the final decision.
Yeah.
I bet that those numbers start to dwindle.
They have a lot of money.
They have a lot of money, but that's based on. Allegedly based on human interest on people like you and me donating. Well, people lose interest. Other stories are going to hit over the next few months, and come, say, January, when it's still cold as fuck and there's snow everywhere and the money has gone up, the money has died down because, it's a lot of money, but there's a lot of people leeching off that money because they all need things to live out there. So I could see it just being something to kind of have the numbers die down a little bit and then come through when the resistance is not as strong. And that way it's kind of easier to be quiet about it.
I didn't expect to get on this point, but this is a chance for Michael Woods Jr. to show his salt. I don't know if you've heard of this guy before, but he's an ex-Baltimore cop. We've actually talked about him on an episode in the past, but he's an ex-Baltimore cop, and he sounds... He's anti-cop in the sense that he's anti the police violence, he's anti the drug war, he's anti the police state to a degree. But he's not pro-gun rights entirely. He's pro-background, like crazy background check stuff. He's pro-state. He's an extreme statist, but he's a liberal statist in his ideas about policing, and he's the one that kind of headed the movement to get all these veterans down there because he was also a veteran, and he thought this is one of the times that He doesn't seem to like when police and military are used to protect private interests, that kind of stuff there. He thinks that's abuse. He thinks that they should actually be what we're told police are. And I think he still buys into that being possible. But this is a chance, if he's actually running this movement, and I'd have to assume that his organization is the one that got this money, if he's smart and he's a military guy and a police guy, he's going to set up maybe 100 people to stay there and feed them a steady supply of whatever it takes to keep them there, and basically that's it. And keep them comfortable enough that they're happy to stick around. They don't even have to be the most upstanding individuals in society. You just need a base camp. You just need to keep everything ready for if shit starts to move, you can get everything back. So if you can keep enough of that $1 million in reserve for getting everybody back there, 2,000 people out there, it's not that hard, especially because they're like caravanning out. It's not like they're flying everybody there. And it doesn't take much to sustain 100 people and campers. It just doesn't. It's his chance to prove his salt. And as a military guy and a police guy, I think he has the ability to do it. It's, to me, his chance to show that he's interested in that and not financial gains by being the edgy ex-cop.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. That's what I would like to see. But yeah, definitely, if I was this movement, I would want them to keep a base camp for sure, just to show that, hey, we're ready. You don't pull out the troops, or you like,
Yeah.
we can't even. We don't, this that's the same reason we don't pull out at like Iraq or Afghanistan. Like, we know what happens. Oh, as soon as we pull out, they're going to rush and take as much as they can before we get back, and it's hard to take that shit back. So I don't know. I like seeing that many people willing to show up, even if it was only 500, because of what they were standing against, just in terms of the fact that it was really uncomfortable. The idea that many people were willing to go out there, and even more people were willing to donate. They were willing to open their pocketbooks. And the other cool thing I saw was the amount of people donating to, like, if Planned Parenthood got shut down. Like, there was, like, preemptive movements to, like, pay people's medical costs and stuff through GoFundMes. To like raise money for people that would be affected by Planned Parenthood. And I'm like, this is exactly what I've been saying the entire time. If you care enough about these people, set up a fundraiser. Throw some of your money at them. If you really think that these people deserve free abortions, pay for the abortion then. Maybe because birth control is cheaper than abortion, you'll push them in that direction. I don't know. That's what I would do. I'd let the market speak for itself as a pro-choice person. Or not a pro-choice person, really, I should say. I think at the end of the day, it's still more cost-effective not to have abortions and just use birth control. And without basically a subsidized abortion market, it would probably be, you'd see a lot more people on birth control, I think. And if it wasn't so in the closet and everything like that, if it wasn't so hard to get to birth control, I think is another big reason. Because you have to go through the doctor and all this other horse shit. And people know what to take. They know the dosages. And I know we're two white guys. We probably shouldn't even talk about this.
I was gonna say, I don't have a lot of opinion on it.
It's just what pisses me off about everybody being like, we need the FDA and all these like government regulations on shit like that. Like, all of my female friends just tried different birth controls until one of them worked. And they knew when they went to the doctor, they were going to switch birth controls. And they told the doctor which birth control they wanted to try next. And the doctor wrote them the prescription for that one. Why couldn't have they just gone to a fucking pharmacist and been like, I tried this for a month, it didn't work, so give me this one? They did all the research online already. That's what I'm saying. It's just, it's ridiculous that you have to go through all those steps, and then it inflates insurance rates and all that other horse shit. I have to fucking, if you want an antibiotic, if you know you need an antibiotic because you have an infection that you've had, like a sinus infection for weeks, you know when you go to the doctor, they're going to give you a zithromycin or something like that. So you have to spend like $150 to get a $7 prescription, or your insurer does.
Yeah.
Just shit like that. That's what I'm saying. That's,
Right. No, it's
we know what we need and what we're going to get. They already are educating the market to go to their doctor and get from fucking Paxil does it. They educate the market. The market says, hey, doc, I need this. The doc writes the script. He went to medical school forever to learn how to do shit, but if you're just looking for pills, you don't need him for that.
yeah.
It's so asinine to me, I don't know how I went from Standing Rock to that stuff. It's been a while since we recorded, though. Did we make it through Standing Rock? Is there anything else you want to talk about with it? I think it's cool that everybody was showing up to it, and I think it's even the idea that it could make them pause the entire movement or the entire like progression of the line. Even it could make them pause through the winter, because like we were talking about, pipeliners, they work through the winter. So the fact that they could make them pause until the next president comes in, essentially, it's kind of cool to me.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess I'll give you that. There's part of me also that thinks that, this could be one of my knocks against our current President Obama, is I've always felt that he's a bit legacy thirsty.
Yeah.
So
this was a bad way to tarnish it right at the end.
Yeah, this is a good way to save face and just have him not have to deal with this, is to put it on the next guy.
And there's been a lot of bitching about his silence on it too.
Yes, and he's in a weird spot. Most lame ducks don't have big decisions like this to deal with, so it seemed like the likely thing to do is just stall. Let the next guy deal with it. It won't be my problem. Then I can look like a good guy. Even if I know this isn't going to work out the way that people want, I can at the very least stall it so that the next guy deals with it. And then I'm the beloved former president that we all wish we had back. Mm-hmm. And not a guy who went out on a bad run. And as a guy who managed to win a Nobel Peace Prize despite being in war literally every single day of his presidency, he clearly knows good PR moves.
Yeah, for killing more people in his presidency than the one before him. That was called a warmonger.
Smells like peace to me.
Yeah. I want to check in with Kev, and also that should be a poll option. But, so do you still have any suspicion, even if you didn't before, do you have any suspicion that Obama might try and take a third term somehow? Because I keep hearing that thrown out, and I think I've heard you throw it out on air.
Oh yeah, I've thrown it out because people throw it out there all around. It's a fairly popular conspiracy theory. I don't know. I mean, the clock's ticking on that one. They really run out of time. We have just a few weeks. Like, what do you think it would take? Because honestly, this would have been Standing Rock was the one big thing that I thought outside of any sort of natural disaster that could cause for an emergency government. If the veterans had come in and things had gotten nasty and all of a sudden it was arms on each side ready to stand toe to toe, that was when I would have thought that we could see an emergency government come in and put everything on pause, put the transition on pause. But now that this has been resolved, I feel like it kind of is the final blow to those who adhere to that conspiracy, because what's going to happen between now and swear-in day that could give, unless one of these petitions goes through or one of these recount things slows up the process, and then all of a sudden, what if it's the recount that slows down the actual swearing in, and then that delay.
What if they're waiting to do the recount because of that?
Yeah, just to kind of extend it. Like, it could be sort of like France's curfew that looks like it's never going to end now, off the Bataclan, which granted, that was a major thing that happened, but they just continue to get extensions on that martial law over there. So it's just an example of how all you have to do in government is open that door, and then it's very easy to convince us in our psyche, like, oh, it's just 3 more months, or oh, it's just 6 more months, and then, oh, it's another 5 months, another 4 months. So I guess it's possible, but I don't really see what would do it at this point other than questioning the results of the election, because Standing Rock was the last big polarizing thing I could think of outside of the Time stuff, like the Time article coming out,
Yeah. I have a question, but before I ask that question, I need to remember it, so I'll fill the time by... no, so what is the idea? I'm just kidding about that. The question was... what's the idea behind Obama wanting a third term? Or how long? Is it like the boyfriend that just got dumped that is trying to find a way to spend 5 more minutes with his ex? Is that what it is? He just doesn't want to leave the office, and he wants that 1 week extension that a disaster would bring, or a 2 week extension. He just needs just a little more time, and then he'll be okay. What's the idea? Or would that revolution last a lifetime and he become king? Where do they take it?
So it depends on who's spinning the web. If it's a incredibly vigilant Christian conspiracy theorist, it may be that Obama is the Antichrist, because I've seen those videos where they show, oh, he's got a scar on his temple, and says in Revelations that the Antichrist will have survived a deadly wound. When did Obama get that scar on his temple? Oh my God, he's the Antichrist. So they might go that direction. They might go the Alex Jones globalist direction and say that, okay, well, he's working for the puppet masters at the Bilderberg, the Council on Foreign Relations, that he's just a UN puppet, and that the idea is to expand his term, and then he will usher in a UN marriage, and then we'll have a global. So it really depends on the source. It depends on what agenda they want to push.
I got you.
Again, the Christian one, the one that sounds the silliest, the Antichrist one, is not the least popular, to be honest.
Okay.
It's a nasty world out there in conspiracy theory, especially around President Obama. There's tons of theories that his wife is a man. So there's really not much of there's no end to where they might go with it. So, but most of them aren't claiming that it's just him power hungry wanting to be a king. It's more that someone else would be working behind him.
Okay.
Or
so
he's
the
the
special
Antichrist.
set of rules that it would set up would allow him to usher that in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got you. Because that was always weird to me. Just the idea that they just need to hang on a little longer. Why wouldn't you work your entire 4 years that you have as a president to disestablish the rules? would be a smarter move to me. But his silence on it just doesn't surprise me at all for the legacy reason, like you were saying. I don't know. I just wanted to check in with you a little bit there and see what your thoughts on that happening were. Oh, you asked me like the circumstances that I think would need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The one cool thing about it being such a huge country is I think something like Standing Rock, it would be hard to spin that warranted a complete federal, statewide, countrywide election process. To me, just a regional issue like that. But yeah, the violence thing, it is interesting that the Bundys basically got absolved. You know, like people say, if you bring violence to it, it ruins everything. Like, I don't know about that. Behind MLK was the Black Panthers, and they walked on the State House carrying openly rifles to get their message across. I think we've gotten a little pussified. I think, and that might be one of the reasons we might just see this paused and them see if they can just sneak around this. Because at the end of the day, it's a corporation behind this, and they want a cost-effective way to end this. I mean, it's the government that's the enforcement arm, but it's money interest involved in the pipeline. So I don't think they want to deal with killing to get to there at the end of the day. I really don't. But I don't know who owns the rights to this pipeline at the end of the day either. So we'll see. I don't know.
No, yeah,
interesting.
But I agree with you. I don't think they want blood on their hands. I don't, and that's probably part of it. But yeah, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't see that big thing that would get people to want to overthrow this whole process. But there are people out there that are claiming that just Trump being elected is enough to warrant an Obama third term, to suspend the terms that's enough to claim a national state of emergency. And we've seen in other episodes when we've researched the 32 different national states of emergency we've been under since 1979.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not it's something they're not willing to throw around. Be like, oh, we're in a state of emergency. We're still in our 9/11 state of emergency. It's been extended for 15 straight years. So yeah, who knows? Maybe if there's a big earthquake coming or something, he could slide in the last minute. But I don't see. I feel like that one's going to go off into conspiracy heaven.
Where many of them seem to go to die.
Yep.
Rightfully so, some might say.
With Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Poor guy. I liked old Lyndon Baines. Yeah, he was a good chap. He was a good kid.
Good old Dixie Democrats.
Yeah, I'm just glad we're still talking about the libertarian movement and that Gary Johnson managed to make the message relevant.
I think the message remained relevant despite Gary Johnson. I think that's more accurate. I don't think he did anything to help it.
No, you're right. It might have remained relevant, but it hasn't been getting talked about because he was a terrible politician, and I just want to stop recording on that note. Fuck Gary Johnson. I haven't gotten that out there for a while. You can check us out at 60 Grit Radio on Twitter and YouTube, and if you search it on SoundCloud, you'll find us too, but it's better to find us on SoundCloud at Bad Dinner Guests. And you can also check out Bad Dinner Guests blog, which is pretty cool because it has all our content, just like the SoundCloud, which is baddinnerguests.blogspot.com. There is an S at the end of Bad Dinner Guests. Kevin, did you have anything you wanted to add before we close out of this?
No, you covered it all well. Find all of our shows on our SoundCloud, and it's a little more organized on the blog. So if you're interested in the other stuff that we do, I suggest you check there first.
Perfect. Appreciate it, guys. Leave a comment. Like us. Later.